It's time for Six Figure Trucking, period 17, where we take a look at my compensation as a W-2 company driver. First, we're going to talk about the logs for the week. I was paid for 3,614 dispatch miles. I had 3,048 logged miles. My utilization this week was 101%. The day in orange was a day that I was paid for a 34-hour reset. My unedited pay statement for period 17 of 2024, which includes all trips from April 14th to April 20th. This first trip started in Gardena, California, and ended at the Fort Recovery, Ohio terminal. It paid $1,455 for 2,189 miles. The second trip this week started at the Fort Recovery, Ohio terminal and ended at the Fort Recovery, Ohio terminal. There were many stops in Wisconsin and Minnesota. They included stops in Marshfield, Baldwin, Clintonville, and Ripon, Wisconsin. In Minnesota, I stopped in Champlain and St. Paul. It paid $2,598 for 3,613 miles. Securement paid $19. Hazmat miles paid $25. I was paid $100 for the 34-hour reset. Loaded miles paid $2,316, and stops paid $138. Total earnings for this week was $2,598. We keep hearing across the industry that drivers are getting less miles and making less money. I'm one that believes in hard numbers rather than anecdotal information. Here's a comparison of my miles and compensation for the last 4 years. These are my actual pay statements through period 17 of each year. 17 weeks into the year, my gross income is $36,837, and I've driven 47,500 miles. This averages out to $2,167 per week and 2,794 miles per week. Estimating that out over a year, I'm on track to earn $112,679 for 145,293 miles. Through week 17 of 2024, I've been loaded 94% of the miles, and 17% have been hazmat placarded miles. This is a map of the miles per state year-to-date in which I've driven. This week flipped a few states' positions. Texas still remains solidly in first as my most traveled state. Second is now Indiana, followed by Ohio in third. North Carolina and Illinois round out the top 5, with my home state of Georgia dropping to 6th. This week I added 2 new states to the map, Minnesota and Wisconsin. Here's the home time that I've taken this payroll year. No home time was added this week. I've been on home time 6 times so far this year, totaling 21.2 days. I've also had 9 paid 34-hour resets on the road. My driver's settlement shows 11, but 2 of those were actual layovers. I'm not paid hourly, but let's calculate this like an hourly job. For the week, my gross pay was $2,598 for 62 hours of work. If we break that down into a typical hourly job, it could be 40 regular hours and 22 hours of overtime, resulting in an effective pay rate of $35.72 per hour. Straight hourly pay would be $42.02 per hour. Year-to-date, I've earned $36,837 for 920 hours worked. Out of those hours, 679 would be regular time, 241 would be overtime. If we calculated it weekly with overtime, the effective pay rate is about $35.41 per hour. However, as straight time is approximately $40.05 per hour. This week, I was watching a video from another YouTuber, and they were talking about how poorly we were paid when you look at it pay by hour. And the reason they say pay by hour is because they think we should be paid for every hour we're in the truck. Clearly, they may not have done any research before they got into this industry and not realized we're not paid for sleeping. However, I thought it would be an interesting calculation, so I decided to look at it. So far, there have been 17 weeks in this year. That's a total of 2,856 hours. 509 of those hours I have been at home on home time. Now, I count being at home from the time I finish my post-trip when I park in the driveway to the time I start my pre-trip getting ready to leave. When you divide that out, that's $15.70 per hour that I spend in the truck. Again, that's not bad. It's not what everybody says the industry is. Now, I don't expect to be paid for every hour in the truck, but it is an interesting calculation. As always, make sure you're enjoying every day at work.